And welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known for the last 3 decades. Can you believe that? I am a senior myself. As a woman, a source, a trusted advisor that you could listen to, watch, and learn through my guests, through the information I provide, so that you can begin to make strong and decisive moves for you and your family. We're living in turbulent times where information is available at a point in a click. However, knowledge and wisdom are not. And that's what I bring to the table. I tell people, you can point and click and get all kinds of stuff, but unless you have someone who knows what they're talking about and is willing to help you, it is meaningless. So today is no exception. For the next hour, I have as my guest the gentleman that joined me several weeks ago talking about retirement income planning, Norm Falick, and he is a retirement advisor in Southern Ohio and Northern Kentucky, and this is his area of expertise. So I'm not going to talk any further. We're going to get right into the nuts and the bolts, get a pen and a pencil, and begin to learn and get knowledge. Again, this is not a point and click. This is about sitting down and engaging in a conversation so that you and your family can do better. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back.
I'm so glad to have you back. We ran out of time, and it was such a good dialogue. I just said right then and there, we got to do this again, and we got to do it shortly. So I'm glad that you're here. And where do we want to start? Why don't you reintroduce yourself to the viewers and just talk right into the camera and tell them about yourself.
Well, like I said last time, I am what I consider myself as a recovering Series 7 financial advisor, which means I used to be at Merrill Lynch as what you would typically think of as a stockbroker, financial advisor. And prior to that, I'd been around the block a few times owning some businesses. But the most important thing was probably for the last 25 years, I've been planning my own retirement.
Now that's nice.
And then basically I learned that there were a few areas where the financial service industry just doesn't focus on what really becomes important in retirement, and that's income. And
exactly.
the threats that can ruin a retirement income. That's the taxation going up, it's the stock market going down, and it's long-term care events. Those aren't talked about a lot in financial advisor circles. We're more concerned about gathering assets and charging 1% and going up with the S&P and that type of thing. But there's a little conversation about converting the assets into income and protecting them so they last a lifetime. So you, A, don't run out of money, and maybe even leave something as a legacy.
Well, you know, it's interesting you bring that up because as I shared with you prior to going on air, advisors are excellent at teaching people how to go up the mountaintop. And if you look at the life cycle of a typical person, they come out of college, they get married, they get a job, they buy a car, they buy a house, they start having children, they save money, they invest, they save, and they're moving up that mountain and put kids through college, deal with parents, and now you're at the top of the mountain and it's your time. You're out of the workplace. You're done. And you'd like to do a big, I'm free. But to find people such as yourself to teach people and to help them to come down that mountain, that slippery slope, that could mean no more income or consistent income. Am I going to outlive my resources? A major concern of seniors. Am I going to live too long? And so that's what I want us to talk about, coming down that mountain and how do people plan so that they don't outlive their resources, that they have a quality of life and lifestyle that says I'm free to enjoy my grandchildren, to travel, to do other things. And then when I transit out of this earthly experience, to be able to leave something for my children, grandchildren, other than a memory.
Church, school.
Church, school, charitables. So that's what I want to talk about, your perspective. And again, you came out of Wall Street. Merrill Lynch was one of my major accounts when I was in institutional investing. And I just want to hear your thoughts and perspectives. Where do we start now? And if a person says, okay, I'm sitting here looking at this man and he's supposed to be smart, where do I start?
Depends on their stage in life, obviously. There's different considerations if somebody is right on the cusp of retiring.
Yes.
Late 50s, early 60s. There's one set of considerations because time is not an asset anymore.
Correct.
And then there's the 23-year-olds coming right out of college, whole different animal. They've got a lot of time on their side. So my first question would be, where are you in life? For the youngest folks who have the most time,
oh my God,
that's the best
yes.
thing. You know, we look at it like they say, if the Titanic would have picked up the iceberg a few more miles out, all it would have had to do was make a little tiny adjustment to miss it. But because it picked it up so close, it had to make a major, it couldn't turn fast enough, right?
Okay.
Same thing with planning for retirement. The longer the time frame you have to retire, the more minor adjustments you need to make.
Okay.
But if you're right there, then it could be something major, and there may or may not be enough time to make that kind of an adjustment. So starting off at an early age, I would tell somebody to start thinking about getting into a savings plan for retirement that primarily will not have anything to do with the government.
That is important.
There is no, well, let me back up and say
Okay.
this. Since the 1960s, the government recognized that pensions are not going to be the way of life that they used to be.
Right.
That was the norm. You would
Okay,
work for your
right,
company so
right.
long, you'd have a pension, no worries.
Right.
At least you knew exactly how much you're going to make, and it was going to last all your life. That was the
Right.
whole point. Pensions,
Assuming that you were going to be dead by 65?
well, that's what Social Security assumed when it
I
first
know they
came.
did, yeah. Yeah.
The retirement age was 65 when the life expectancy was 63 when it first came out. Yeah, now it's 66 and the expected lifespan is 85, 90.
Yeah, yeah.
So without pensions, the government began encouraging people to save on their own. They call those IRAs.
Yeah.
They started those back in the 60s, and the government gave an incentive, through tax incentive, to start saving on your own by saying, if you put money away, we will let you put the money away pre-tax. So it grows pre-tax.
Which is attractive.
Under one condition, and that is that the income tax rate when you're paying it back, that is after you're 59 and a half and you're in retirement, is lower than the income tax rate at which you are saving. In other words, if I get a 25% tax break today for putting the money into my IRA and I can't touch it till I'm 59 and a half, well, hopefully when I'm over 59 and a half, I'm going to be in a lower than a 25% tax bracket.
Or else it doesn't make any sense.
If the brackets are the same, there's no statistical advantage, and all you did was sell your soul to the devil by saying, I can't touch it till I'm 59 and a half, I can't put it up for collateral, I have to pay it back when I'm 70 and a half whether I like it or not. There's a lot of strings that come with government
Right,
programs.
right.
So back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, tax brackets were relatively very high.
Okay.
And it could very comfortably tell somebody in a middle-class family back in 1980s, when you retire, two things. One, you're going to make less money. You'll probably be in a lower bracket, and taxes may come down. And it would have worked out which is great. Well,
Okay.
today, in 2016, we're one increment off of 60-year historical lows when it comes to tax brackets. The Bush
Okay.
tax cuts expired in 2014, at which time the highest bracket for the wealthiest Americans, people making all the money in the world, were taxed at 36.5%. The 60-year average, going back to the 1950s for the high bracket,
Okay.
is 64%. Well, all of a sudden it's down to 36. Now today, it's gone up, where the high bracket is now up to 36 or
Okay.
39 and a half. I'm
Okay.
sorry, 39 and a half.
That's the very highest.
The highest. So here's what we have to understand. When the richest people are at 64, where are us average Joes? 50, 45, 40?
Right.
Okay, well today, the average folks are probably in the 25, 28% bracket, which is crazy low compared to history. It's this
Right.
today's 25% bracket, married filing jointly, is 75,000 to 150,000. It's one bracket, 25%. Just an example, in 1981,
Okay.
taking 1981 dollars and making them into today's dollars, adjusting
Okay.
for inflation, 75,000 started at 33%
Wow.
and went up to, and 150,000 was about 49%.
Okay.
And there were two breaks in between, it was like 38 and 43. Wasn't one big 25.
Okay.
So there were a lot of incremental, but the point being, somebody making the same amount of money, say 100 and a quarter, today is in the 25% bracket, back then would have been in the 43%
Right.
bracket.
So tax rates have collapsed.
Today, I call that taxes are on sale. Pay them today.
Right.
Is there any guarantee they're going to be this low 20 and 30 years from now, when most people are going to be actually in retirement and paying it back?
Right.
And I think not only is there no guarantee that they're going to be lower
Oh,
or
I
the
think they're
same.
going to be higher.
That's what
I have to. I
think
have
the
to
odds
based
are they're
upon
going
the
to be
odds.
they're
Yeah.
going to be a lot higher. So the first thing I would tell a younger person is, let's see if we can't begin a tax-free type program, so that's not an issue. There's enough issues in life. That's one we can eliminate.
Okay.
If somebody is a little older, I have people maybe in their 40s or early 50s that have been around the block a little bit and have had some jobs where they had a 401k and they left the company, and they have it now, it's their IRA.
Right.
They roll it in and they have somebody managing it for them. Well, there are ways legally under the tax code to start moving some of this money out pre-59 and a half without penalty. It's called this was called a 72T election.
Okay.
This is an IRS code that says there's a calculation. You get online and you plug in your age and how much you have and so on, and the government will say you can take out 4%. A year.
Okay.
Now the rule is you have to take the same amount out every year to your 59 and a half, or for 5 years, whichever is longer.
Okay.
So somebody 48 years old can start taking out, let's say, roughly 4%, pay the taxes on it now, no penalty, and move it into something non-qualified. In other words, where there's no more, it's all
Okay.
after-tax stuff.
So we're not talking about a Roth.
No.
This is something different.
Well, a Roth, you have to wait till you're 59 and a half.
Exactly.
There are ways you can get some of it, such as what your contribution, that type of thing. But primarily for the 401k rollovers and the traditional IRAs,
Right.
and for business owners, the SEP simples, and those types of things, there are
Right.
ways to start unwinding those prior to 59 and a half and get them out of the tax business.
That is amazing. How many people know about that?
About the 100 or so people,
Excuse
bless
me.
you, that I've talked to. CPAs
serious?
know. I tell my CPA, and it goes, yeah, sure. They all know about it.
So why don't they use it as a planning tool?
Some are, I'm sure.
Okay, some are, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there is taxable money, we can start unwinding it, and then when you are 65 or 70 or whatever age of retirement, you'll have still, some of the original IRA left. You can't unwind it all,
Right.
unless you have 25 years or 30 years. There'll be, and it'll grow.
Okay.
So there'll be that, and there will be non-qualified assets as well. So it's a little bit of diversification there.
But I like that. I like that. I think that's a great way to go.
So I would say that's for people, those are considerations for people up to maybe mid-50s.
Okay.
When somebody is staring down retirement with less than 10 years to go,
Okay.
the considerations are, the first thing I would say is let's start looking at Social Security. For those people over 50 today, I think it's a pretty good bet. For those under 50,
Yeah,
not so much.
not so much.
Right. So, but for those over 50, 55, 60, early 60s, the Social Security is building block number one for guaranteed income for all your life.
Yep.
So,
Wasn't supposed to be like that.
well, it's only a supplement.
Yeah.
Is what the
Yeah.
whole point was. But nevertheless, it's still an annuity payment that will last all your life. You can count on it.
Right.
So I would say let's look at your Social Security strategies and think about how we can maximize that. And then I would suggest, well, let's start with what you have to have for what you would call, not what I would call, but for what you would call a successful retirement.
Okay.
In other words, how much money will it take every month for the rest of your life so you never have to go back to work? And everybody's different. Like you said, it may include travel, it may include a lot of golf or taking more classes or do a lot of volunteer, whatever you call retirement. Let's see how much that's going to cost. Social Security will pay for part of that.
Yes.
And then what I would recommend is let's guarantee enough income to cover the gap that Social Security doesn't make.
Okay.
And the rest of it, leave it with your financial advisor and have them swing for the fence.
Right.
Because if the market goes down at that point, it really won't matter because you
still have your base.
what you have to have
Okay.
to sleep every night and not worry what the price of oil is doing, what North Korea is doing, what Greece is doing, the European Union, the Brexit, all these things that make the
variables.
markets go haywire.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about those types of things. And the answer to that is there are annuities that people can take a certain amount of money and an insurance company will look at their age and gender and that type of thing and say, we can guarantee this amount of money every month as long as you live, or as long as you and your wife live. Give you a second to die type of thing.
Well, let me ask you this question, and I encounter it often because I'm a strong proponent on properly structured annuities. I think they can be the bedrock of your retirement along with Social Security and give people that stability, but many people would rather take their risk in the market. What's your response to that?
It's all about risk tolerance, and the more you know, when the closer you get to retirement, the less risk tolerance most people have.
Exactly.
And it's like, you know what? I don't want to roll the dice with the rest of my life.
I totally agree.
You know, the accepted mantra, I would call it, in the financial services industry, and I said this at Merrill Lynch, was what's called the 4% safe drawdown rate.
Yes.
Every advisor on the planet will say, you can take 4% of your assets. If you've got $1 million, you can take out $40,000 a year, and you probably won't run out of money.
But you know, interestingly enough, I just read a study that blows that up. Blows it up.
I may have read the same study.
I think so.
Morningstar, the most recognized, the company with no axe to grind.
Right, no axe to
They're a
grind.
very neutral company when it comes to rating mutual funds. I read a 16-page white paper that said a couple things. One is a 4% drawdown rate gives a 50-50 chance of your money lasting 30 years.
That's not good enough.
50-50?
50-50?
I wouldn't take
I'm not
50-50.
doing 50-50.
Because the 50 that doesn't make it, what do you do?
Exactly.
You're 89 years old and you just ran out of money, or 85
You go
or 80.
to work for Walmart.
Not acceptable.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a Walmart greeter.
Yeah.
So they're saying in this day and age, maybe that 4% should be more like 2 3/4. Well, that means if you have $1 million, you can only take out
$20,000. Yeah, that's it.
That's rough.
Yeah, that is
So
really rough.
annuities can actually guarantee higher than those safe drawdown rates. And you've got a $1 trillion company saying, as long as we're around, your money's good.
Exactly.
And I'm not advocating it for their entire wealth. I'm just saying for what you have to have on a monthly basis, so you never have to go back to work. Guaranteed.
Right. I totally agree. So now we have at least our foundation in place, where you have your guarantees, where you know predictably an outcome, which would be your Social Security and your annuity, and then what comes after that. And then you have your portfolio in the market.
Well, the portfolio in the market hopefully will be your legacy.
Yeah.
This is, if it's grown properly and managed properly and the market doesn't go haywire too badly, then you'll be able to start doing charitable giving, setting up maybe grandchildren's education, that type of thing, whatever is important.
Right.
Some people buying a new Ferrari might be important, but
well, I just came
is,
from Florida, and there was a bunch of old men driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis. They were looking good.
If they can afford it, good for them.
That's what I said. If you can afford it, go for it.
Once the basics are covered. But the one other basic that I would suggest looking into at that point is going to be long-term care insurance.
Let's talk about long-term care insurance. Let me just segue by saying that I just came out of a one-day course offered by Michael Milanig, attorney at law, very prestigious individual, years of estate planning and credentialing, and he really pushed that point hard. And I've been sitting under his tutoring for years, but this time it was so matter of fact, which is, as advisors, this is a must. Your clients must know about long-term care, because Medicaid is brutal. And for those of you that are watching, Medicaid is not Medicare. Medicare is a health care plan, federal, for those 65 and over, mandated. Medicare is long-term care for the poor, because you will be, Medicaid, thank you for that correction, that's major. Medicaid is a long-term care program for the poor, and you will be poor before you can qualify for Medicaid. So let's talk about this long-term care thing as that third piece.
Probably a long-term care event, and it's simply, to be clear, like you said, it's not health care. It's not doctors and and prescriptions and hospitals. That's Medicare. That's health insurance. Okay. A long-term care event is the result of simply getting too old and infirm to take care of yourself. Can't bathe yourself, feed yourself. You need help in doing these things, getting to the bathroom maybe, eating, getting around. For anybody who can't, they're called activities of daily living.
ADLs, yes.
ADLs, there's 6 of them, the transferring, bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, continence. Anybody that can't perform 2 of those would qualify for long-term care benefits under long-term care insurance. And normally the help is delivered either in the home through many of these home health care agencies. Providers. They come to your home as many hours as you can afford or want or need. They're a new upcoming industry is called adult daycare.
Yes.
So because there's a lot of older adults that are now living, a lot of seniors living with their adult children, but they're still working.
Right.
So at that point, maybe the kids are going off to school and we're going to drop off mom at a daycare, just as if I had a pre-kindergarten. And
That
in
is
many
amazing,
cases,
yes.
in many cases, this is what I really find fascinating. They're the same place.
The same place.
Because how great is an interaction for a senior to have preschoolers floating around?
Oh, I think that's
And how great is it for the preschoolers to have grandparent type figures floating around all day? To have that, I think the interaction benefits both.
I think you're correct.
But it's a place for people to receive a lot of the help when the adult children caretakers have to attend to their own lives. And then, of course, there's assisted living facilities, and there are then what they call full-blown skilled care, which were called nursing homes.
Right.
Getting away from that.
Yes, right. They
that
cleaned it up.
term, but that's the whole idea. Medicaid only covers skilled care,
Correct.
and it takes a lot to get to that point. And by the time they get to that point, the families and the care, they're just completely done.
Yes.
Emotionally, physically, sometimes
Yes.
financially.
Yes.
Long-term care insurance, however, pays for all of the above.
Plus, they can stay at home.
You have options.
I
Isn't
mean,
the Holy
that to
Grail
me
to age
is
in
so
what they call
wonderful.
aging in place? We've
Yes,
heard that term.
yes,
That
yes.
means I want to live in my own home for the rest of my life.
Yes.
I don't want to be shipped off to an institution.
Right. And just as a sidebar, and a lot of people are not aware of this, and I frankly wasn't, but I started doing research, and many of these facilities, did you not know that sex offenders and felons can come up under Medicaid and come into these facilities?
I didn't know that.
I just read it. I just read it.
I guess they're taxpayers like everybody else.
They're
at some point.
taxpayers like everyone else, and there was a front page of the Journal News, front page this weekend, that said about a 96-year-old woman who had been assaulted sexually in a facility by a sex offender. And he was there on Medicaid, and which is perfectly legal and lawful. However, he had obviously issues, and to assault a 96-year-old woman, and that was on the front page. And it caught my attention because it goes back to, here again, the significance of having long-term care insurance, where you have options.
That's the answer.
Options.
Options is the word. Long-term care insurance means you're always in control.
That
Once
is
you're out
powerful.
of money and you go on Medicaid, which is welfare,
It is.
you are a ward of the state
It is.
at that point, and then it's the state that makes all the decisions. They tell you where you have to go.
Right. And so many people in the senior group are confused because they keep, I hear it all the time, well, I've got long-term care. And I'm like, oh, wonderful, with who? And they said, no, I have Medicare. And I say, Medicare is not Medicaid. It's health insurance. And I've seen the shock on their faces when they realize that they have not hit it right. And of course, they have to make some decisions, and many of them, sadly, choose to do nothing, hoping that it won't happen to them. But do you have the data on that?
According to the government's Medicaid office,
Yes.
they say that anybody today, age 65, has a 70% chance, 7 out of 10 in other words, will need some form of long-term care. Now, when you combine that with a husband and a wife, 7 out of 10 of the husband, 7 out of 10 for the wife, that together creates a virtual certainty.
I would say a tsunami.
There's
even.
about a 100% chance
Yes, that
that
you're
one
gonna
or
be
the
there.
other is going to need something.
Right. Now, one of the things that I hear oftentimes is I can't afford the premiums because the premiums many times are more than they feel that they can pay. What is your response to that?
It's a necessary evil. Let's face it, long-term care claims
Yes.
are very big.
Well, I did respond to an individual that asked that question, and I said, very, very well-respected facility in this area for a person that has Alzheimer, which is epidemic, is $12,000 a month. And if they had had coverage, their premiums wouldn't have been $12,000 a month.
No.
No.
Nowhere. That would be high-end today.
I mean, yes. So the response is always, you pay for car insurance, even if you never have a car accident. It's risk management, correct?
Correct. It's all risk management.
And you pay for homeowners insurance, even though the probability of you having a fire is very
1 in 10,000.
1 in 10,000. But yet you will not do risk management for yourself.
Where the odds are 7 in 10.
Yeah. And so there's a disconnect. What would you respond to that?
Here's the reason why. I'll be the first to admit long-term care insurance is expensive, but here's why. One is the claims are $12,000 a month, $140,000 a year, every year.
Right.
As long as you live. Somebody diagnosed with Alzheimer's today can expect to spend about $1.25 million in their lifetime. So number one, the cost of care is very expensive. So the premiums are more commensurate. Most auto accidents, when you make a claim, you get your door scratched, it's $500. You ding another car, it's a few $1,000s. And the odds of that happening are 1 in 4,000. So it costs $100 a month or $200 a month.
Right.
Okay, well, when the odds are 7 in 10 of you spending $500,000 in your life, 2.5 years, 20 years from now in a nursing home is going to be, $200,000 a year.
Yes.
Well, when the odds are 7 in 10 that you're going to spend in the hundreds of thousands, then the premiums get to be pretty up there.
But the alternative, as I do say, and I'll continue to be an advocate of this type of insurance, the alternatives are, who's going to pay for mom and dad?
If you don't have insurance, you are what is called self-insured, which means it's on you.
It's on you.
Now, that said, to me, spending $5,000 or $8,000 a year and saying, just like auto insurance, typical, you pay and you pay and you pay and you hope you never need it, but at the end of the time, if you never needed it, that's water under the bridge.
Right.
Right? It's gone.
Right. It's gone. It's like paying rent.
And of course, a lot of auto insurance, the state says you have to have it. Your homeowner's insurance, your mortgage company says you have to have it. Nobody's saying you have to have
long-term care.
Long-term care.
Although I wish there was some way, because of what's coming down the highway.
Well, there are now forms of long-term care that are more palatable. At least I can wrap my financial advisor brain around it. The idea of, like I said, $5,000 to $8,000, $10,000 a year, and I may never need it. It's like, that's expensive. However, today there are policies that say if you never needed the money, if you didn't live long enough, like maybe you got hit by a bus on the way home from my office, and you didn't live long enough to get into the long-term care, or you were lucky enough to live a long, full life and you die at the age of 97 in the comfort of your own home, and your family looks around and says, well, they had this great policy, they just never needed it. Well, today there are policies that will say if you have so much $250,000, $300,000 of long-term care benefits, if you never use them, your beneficiaries will get the entire $300,000.
Oh my God. So
now,
where's the risk there?
None.
None.
It stays in the family or in the estate under all circumstances. So I like, and that's just saying, instead of, you're not really paying money out the door like an expense.
Right.
You're just moving it from this pocket to this pocket. So you have it if you need it, and then if not, it goes back to this pocket.
But so what are the arguments against that type of a policy? I can't imagine. I can't think of any good ones
other than I flat out
don't believe it.
And again, it's like if you're what you're protecting is your nest egg.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't have a car, you don't have car insurance.
No.
If you don't have a house, you don't have homeowners. If you don't have a nest egg, and unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, probably over 50% of all Americans are going to die with nothing.
Okay, that's
fact
a reasonable
of life.
fact.
I tell people, if you don't have anything to protect,
then don't worry about it.
You don't need insurance.
No.
But if you have a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 nest egg, $1 million nest egg, $1.5 million, and you don't want that to evaporate, then it's worth protecting. Because it's really, the money is going to stay in the family anyway. So it's not, the money's not going out the door.
Right. I like that.
But it's a way of turning at $10,000, that's even high, but $10,000 a year into a $350,000 pool of money that's available today.
And available as a return if you don't use it.
And if you never needed it, it's going to go back
still there.
It's going to revert back to the family.
That is very, very powerful.
I tell people, that $10,000, what if you didn't spend it? What are you going to leave it to your kids? Well, if you don't have the insurance, you're going to give your kids this gigantic bill. And if you were going to leave it to your kids and you didn't need the insurance, you're going to give it back to them anyway. In more than what you put in.
That because of interest guarantees. That's sweet. Can you talk about the partnership plan? Are you familiar with that, where if a person does take out long-term care with a company that's under the partnership plan, the amount of their benefit is excluded from their state recovery? Are you familiar with that plan?
Not too.
Okay, well, that's another opportunity for people that do want to buy traditional long-term care, where they can go under a partnership plan and say you have $300,000 in benefit under that plan, and you do have to go into a facility after you spent down that benefit, and then at that point have to go into Medicaid perhaps, that $300,000 is exempt from asset recovery, period. The state will not come after that person. That
creates a good reason for having the long-term care.
Right. Right.
It preserves, again, it's preserving
the estate. And that may be more affordable for people who do not have large sums of money, but are concerned about the possibility of depleting everything to qualify for Medicaid coverage. Under this particular plan, again, it depends on the benefit amount, but if it's a $200,000 benefit, and say you have $200,000 in assets, then that program could protect that $200,000. And it would be protected from estate recovery.
And I haven't met anybody who worked all their lives, played the game by the rules, saved their money, did the right things, and to have a nice little nest egg only to give it up and die penniless. Nobody works towards that. It's the most
disturbing aspect of getting older, to me, is to work your entire life in the corporate environment, or even self-employed, but more so for the majority of Americans who worked for a living, 9 to 5 did the respectable and honorable thing, raised their children, took care of their families and bills, and then at the most vulnerable part of their life, when they're most vulnerable, they experience through chronic illness.
Aging.
Aging.
Just aging. You don't have to be ill.
I have to remember that. You don't have to be.
People forget that. You don't have to be ill. You don't have to have a stroke, a heart attack, diabetes. You just have to get older and can't fend for yourself so much. That's what it's about. So how has your success rate been with these products that you represent? Have you been able to overcome objections and really pierce into what's bothering people? It's like any other type of thing. There are people who want to know about it, and And when if they're already leaning, say, I want to hear more about it, I believe, it's about the easiest sale I've ever made. For the people who get it,
Well, if you've had
they take it away from me, in other words.
I believe it. And if they've had to deal with a family member,
that brings it home
real
fast.
fast.
If somebody says, I'm meeting a lady next week in Hamilton, Ohio, who flat out said, I see where my mother is, and I don't want to be there. I see where she is in life. I see her circumstances, what's going to happen with her. I want to prepare for that. I see it coming. A lot of people, if they haven't had a parent in a nursing home, maybe it doesn't hit home quite so much. But if you have, it's an eye-opener.
Okay.
And you say, this is me in 25 years, or this is me in 30 years. Do I want to be there? Or do I want to plan today to make this work for me? In other words, where I'm in control, I have the options, I go where I want to go.
And that's another thing people don't understand, which is on Medicaid, you don't have options where you go.
One lady from a nearby nursing home in Middletown put it in a very interesting way. She says, our folks here are playing the Medicaid lottery. And what she means by that is people go into the home and they'll say, well, if you've been what they call private pay, in other words, whether if you're not on Medicaid, whether it's insurance paying for it or your family's paying for it, if you're a private pay for a couple of years,
okay,
and you run out of money, we'll keep you around on a Medicaid.
I hear that all the time.
But they only have so many Medicaid beds.
Okay.
They may have 100 residents and only 12 of them
are Medicaid beds.
Are designated, and the state makes that number.
Okay.
That's a state mandated number. How many beds you can have for Medicaid? Well, guess what? If there's not an open bed, when you run out of money,
you have to go.
You got to go. There's in many places, particularly assisted living, a lot of places don't take Medicaid at all. And one lady from a really nice facility here in the Dayton area, as a matter of fact, put it in a way that just, again, she said, here's what we do. We tell people when they're coming in, when you run out of money, we will help you.
Okay.
Find another place to live. You're not staying here.
You're not staying
because we
here.
don't take, and then it's up to the state to decide, well, where's the next nearest
facility.
Medicaid. Maybe it's in Chillicothe.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, but
well, you don't have control. You are a ward of the state, and they tell you where to go.
Right.
And people don't seem, well, a lot of people say, well, I'll just go on Medicaid. Well, they don't get all the ramifications.
I know they don't.
Number one, you're going to be penniless. They're going to come back and they're going to take, yes, maybe the husband will go in and they'll wait for the wife to die before they take the house, but then they'll take the house.
Right. Which sounds harsh, but it's a federal program. Taxpayers pay your parents or grandparents. It's taxpayer dollars.
From a taxpayer standpoint, I'd like to see Medicaid get every nickel back that they ever spent.
I would like to see that happen. I really do.
And they do.
They're
the very aggressive
very
about
aggressive.
They're going to get their money back one way or the other if somebody goes on Medicaid.
Yes. I've had that experience more than one time where people cannot believe the state has been able to identify and contact next of kin, trace assets, anything that might potentially be an offset for those fees and charges. They're coming after you.
Well, they go after assets that people got out of their own name up to 5 years ago. Trying to hide it.
And they're like, no, this is going to happen.
It's a little thing called a look back.
A look back, yeah. And just for those of you watching in, I would strongly encourage you before you make decisions in terms of shifting assets and trying to avoid discovery because of the potential for Medicaid, that you seek advice from a credible estate planning attorney who is licensed and credentialed in this area. The repercussions are severe. I cannot overstate this. The repercussions are severe. And the state, particularly Ohio, but we've also got many other states, at the point almost half of your budget is designated to pay for Medicaid. This is seniors, uh, uh, recipients. Oh no, those days are gone. Don't try to beat the system. It's like playing with the IRS. Are you kidding me? Get competent help and assistance. You can call me. I'll be happy to send you to some very, very competent, credentialed attorneys, not your everyday general practitioner. This is a specialty. Okay. Wanted to say that to my viewers because this is so major.
That was important.
Yeah, I think it is important. So you get them on to long-term care. So they do have that risk covered as a part of their coming down the mountain. Are there any other recommendations and suggestions?
I have only one general recommendation for retirement.
What is that?
And that is, I would suggest nobody ever retires unless they have a higher purpose to go to. A lot of people retire and all of a sudden they find themselves with nothing to do.
Right. Well, they didn't plan.
And retirement can mean working for money. It can mean volunteering, which is working for free. It can be whatever you like it to be. It could be renting an RV and spending the rest of your life traveling the country or going to Europe or whatever. But I have seen people retire with no purpose. Flat on their back watching TV all day. And that's the best way to shorten a lifespan.
Oh yeah, your heart's going to quit.
But I'd say don't even think about retiring unless you have a higher purpose. Maybe a higher purpose means taking care of your grandkids. I don't know.
That would be nice.
It's up to the individual. It's not up to me. It's up to the individual what their higher purpose is. But the point is have one. Or find one.
Or find one.
And it's doing, at that point, of course, is doing exactly what you want to do. Because you're not doing something you have to. Well, have to work because I got bills to pay.
I don't have any bills to pay.
At that point, it's, you know what, I want to stay home and I want to take up music or art or I want to study the Bible or I want to go fishing or I want to correct my slice. You know, whatever it means, have something to do.
Can I ask your opinion just as a rewind quickly? As I know you know that the formerly known as a reverse mortgage, but now known as a HECM, that's back on the forefront again. When would you recommend that a person consider doing a HECM?
I would recommend looking into how a HECM will fit into the retirement plans at the point, again, when somebody's closer to the cusp of retiring. Of course, you can't touch it till you're 62 and a half anyway.
Correct.
But before you're 62 and a half, it's nice to have your ducks in a row and know what you're going to be doing and how it's going to fit in. But at the same time, we're looking at the Social Security and we're looking at the guaranteed income and we're starting to do actual financial planning for income.
Right.
Let's look at the need or the benefits of a HECM to see how we can extend, maybe increase the income or extend the life of your income by using the HECM. Because there's a way of, if it's used as an alternative asset class, it's a way to draw down assets when the market's down, so you're not already beating down your portfolio that's already hurting because the market goes down. It's best maybe to have another asset from which to draw, and a HECM is a perfect way to do it. Another way to do it is to say, I want to use it to eliminate my mortgage. And I don't have to have as much guaranteed income. So I don't need as much Social Security and annuitized income to guarantee because I don't even have a mortgage anymore because I can live in my house for the rest of my life without a mortgage.
That is so beautiful.
So there's a couple ways of looking at it, either cutting down the immediate need for income or having an alternative asset class available from which to draw to help extend the life of the portfolio.
The statistics say that 68% of retirees have mortgages. That's the reason I bring it to the table. And I know that the former product, because HUD renamed it a couple of years ago, the reverse mortgage, had a tough go. But this new product that has been on the market for a couple of years has shown itself to be quite impressive in terms of people increasing their cash flow by not having a mortgage. And that to me in retirement, and I don't know, how did you folks get into this? Having a mortgage when you are on a fixed income is tough. And those
It puts a lot of pressure
it puts
on
a
your
lot
assets.
of pressure on that. So this is an alternative that I think could help many people. It's not a get it all, do it all type of a product, but it can satisfy many, many needs at that point in life. So I wanted to bring that to the table with you as well.
I'll say this. Personally, I don't think mortgages are bad in and of themselves.
Yes.
If you have all the money in the world.
Yes.
If you look and say, well, I can easily draw enough to cover my mortgage. But that's not such a bad thing. But I also believe the equity in somebody's house, and I'm sorry to go against the American dream of having my house paid off.
Really?
It's the holy grail of, it's the big dream. Equity in one's home is an asset that's doing nothing but collecting dust.
Right.
So it might as well be used for something beneficial,
Positive, yeah.
such as being an alternative asset that can be drawn from
Yeah.
to
Your house
help
becomes
out
a bank.
wherever else your income
Yeah.
is coming from.
Yeah.
And too many people, I think the old reverse mortgage got a bad rap.
Yeah, it
You know,
did.
the first thing I heard was, well, they can take my house. I'm going to lose my house.
Not
And
true.
it was just
Not
misinformation.
true. Not
There's
true.
a lot of misinformation
Yeah,
out there.
it is. But I like the program. I like the product. I think that it can offer tremendous benefits for individuals who would like to be able to control that income bucket. That to me is important. I do not want seniors working at Walmart as greeters.
Well, they say when used as an alternative asset class,
Yes.
can take that portfolio, the percentages, the chances of your money lasting 30 years, can take it from wherever you were based on how much you have and how old you are and so on, and what drawdown you're using, from a 75 or 80% chance well into the 90s.
I think that's great.
It can just absolutely help solidify a plan and help assure that you're not going to run out of money in your own lifetime.
We've run out of time.
Already?
Give them your phone number.
513-489-6676.
Say it
That's
again.
513-489-NORM.
NORM. That's good.
NORM.
Do you have a website?
Retirementisaboutincome.com.
Retirementisaboutincome.com. We have spent the last hour talking to one of my very, very credible and respected friends, Norm Falick, who is a retirement advisor, about what to do as you come down that mountaintop and how to begin to look at the retirement phase of your life with expectation and hope. It's a different period. People are living longer. People are doing things they never thought they could do. I'd like to think you'd be in that category. But again, avail yourself of the experience today. Give him a call if you have questions. You always know how to reach out to me. And I thank you for being a part of my world as we talk about retirement income. I'm Michelle Graves, wishing you much love, much peace, and God bless you. See you next time. You take care.